What is up? Episode 48. Can't believe it's already 48. It's crazy.
What's up, shitbags? It is. It's crazy. Almost there. Almost halfway to 100. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, for listening, for all the help. We got a couple of things that we're going to take care of first before we jump in. I know no one wants to hear us blabbing about, but we take care of some housekeeping stuff. So first off, as always, thank you to our sponsors. Taylor's Tins, Jobtown, Crew First, Toxic Suppression. Couldn't do this without you. Like Brendan said, I mean, it's awesome. We're almost there. We're almost to 100. It's going to be so cool. But to get there, it's going to take a little bit longer because of our next announcement. So it's a little bit bittersweet. We've been really enjoying this summer and kind of everyone that we've been able to bring on. But unfortunately, just like everybody, life is getting pretty crazy. And the kind of sweet part about it is that the training stuff that we've started to do through this is starting to pick up as well. So between work, life, and all that, things are getting a little bit hectic. So what we are going to do from now, starting next month, is we're going to be moving back down to about one episode a month. So I know we've been enjoying the 2 episodes, and we talked about what we really want to have that do is really emphasize that at least one episode. It'll probably be like the second Tuesday that we'll start hitting. But if we get in touch with somebody we really like, or just get a new kind of person that someone tells us to reach out to, which happens very frequently, instead of pushing them off to next year when we start scheduling, then we'll maybe throw in a special episode and you can get you 2, maybe, who knows, a slow month, we could maybe even pop even 3. So it, yeah, hopefully it won't be always 1, but we want to make sure that you guys aren't losing the quality, and that we can make sure we continue to do that and have something consistent. So you will at least be getting 1 episode a month, but that is what we're going to kind of be going back down to. And it kind of stems off of next month, September, because this episode's next week. We're so far behind. We had some people that were not able to do it anymore and just threw a wrench into things. So between all that, September I'm hoping the second Tuesday, but September could be crazy because we still haven't recorded with that guest and we still don't have a date on the book with them. So that's kind of the only bad news is, you know, we've got the craziness, but we're going to make sure that we keep some content coming out. So that's it. That's the bittersweet. Like I said, it's life's getting crazy, life's getting busier, but we want to make sure that we can give you guys something consistent every month. So we can't thank you guys enough for tuning in and listening. We're really going to try to make sure that we can hit 2. Like I said, it'd be really cool to get 3. I'm really looking forward to that fact that we can have people that we meet. I mean, when we go to these trainings, we meet some awesome people, our next guests included. And like when we talk to them, they're eager to come on. It's like, well, we got openings next year. Like, so it'll be really cool to just be like, yeah, you want to come on next month and hopefully get you guys a cool episode. So, but thank you so much. That's enough blabbing for me. We took up enough time already. Let's go ahead and we'll bring in our guest of the hour. Let's bring in Kyle. Hey, Kyle.
Hey, Kyle.
How are you guys? Doing well.
Fantastic. Why don't you go ahead and give yourself a little introduction? Tell everybody about you.
All right. Well, my name is Kyle Smith. Grew up in Central Florida, and like all of us at a young age, tried to figure out what to do with our lives. Went ahead and knocked out the college because that's what they all told us we had to do, and started volunteering at the fire department the day I turned 18 there in Auburn at that Southwest Lee County Volunteer Fire Department, and worked at the city in Auburn through the student firefighter program and got hooked, and decided to be happy with my career and not just make a bunch of money and move around in life. So moved to the Atlanta area, started with the city of Austell, been with Cobb County since 2000, and
Awesome.
just, living the dream, working the best job. And like a lot of us, worked some second stuff, and been at this same side hustle for 19 years in a couple of weeks, which sounds insane, but it's afforded me the opportunities and to learn some really great stuff and share some of that with the industry on our side of the house. So it's been great.
Awesome. It's really cool. Well, thank you very much for taking some time to come on.
Yeah, certainly.
So it sounds like you've watched some of the shows, so you should know kind of how everything goes. We got our 4 questions for you, and then Brennan's got the generic questions that we'd like to get everyone's input on, and that's kind of how we'll keep going. So,
perfect.
First question that we have for you: you talked about the year in Cobb County. I had to wear the hat that we got down there. What's the best part about working in Job County, as you guys like to call?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's been fantastic for me and through my career. Very well resourced as far as equipment and supplies and all that kind of stuff. But it also has afforded opportunities to get out and train locally, nationally, go to conferences, do all the stuff we all talk about trying to do. It's been, I like the size of the organization. It's big enough that you know most people's names, although that's harder, the longer I'm around. But but yet you still can specialize. We have technical rescue squads. We have a hazmat squad coming online. There's med ops. There's the truck. There's anything you want to specialize in, you certainly can within our organization. And so that affords the opportunities for anyone to really focus on what their passion is. So it's been good to me. So can't complain.
Awesome.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. You said med ops. Do you guys run your own ambulance? I forgot when we were down there.
No, we don't transport. The med ops team, they support the SWAT and the police department and our technical rescue stuff. They have some different protocols to handle things like that. We just recently started carrying blood products. And I've had some amazing results with that. Some of us guys are like, blood, when are we going to use that? But they've used it quite a bit and have had a lot of very good results with that. So, that's what they do. They staff that unit. They respond on any traumas and that kind of stuff to be able to provide that resource. So
that's awesome. That sounds like the best of both worlds. That might be my dream job right there. What the hell?
There you go. Come on.
Oh my gosh.
Always hiring. No, congratulations. I saw you just recently got pinned, right?
Passed my second probation. So
all right.
move departments. I said, I was like, 2 probations. That's it. That's done. Brandon did it as well. He did the double binder. That's what
perfect. Nice.
3 binders. So
way to go.
He was a part-timer, and he had just finished his probationary period as a part-timer when he got hired full-time. So he went right from one probation to the other.
Right to the next.
That's the same one.
Yeah. All right.
So we love to give him shit for that, but
for sure.
Then I went and did 2 of them, and I'm like, yeah, this is stupid. So
well, I've done a couple myself, so it's all right.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you. What is kind of still talking about your job on Cobb County? Mm-hmm. How do you encourage a training culture there? We were there obviously from AFC, and we got to meet a lot of you guys over there. The support that helped that kind of program as well, but you could tell just talking to some of the guys, training culture there is phenomenal.
Well, yeah, and that's been a long time coming. The other downside to a larger organization, the way we always talked about it was it's a big ship with a tiny rudder, and it just takes time to make changes in the organization. And it really kind of stemmed from leadership from years back. A bunch of us started going to FDIC pretty regular. We had a guy, Chief Tom Hancock was one of our first to really start teaching up there about, it was probably 2006-ish. A lot of us were kind of starting to make lieutenant and work our way up the organization, and sort of caught that fire. And we all started going up there. Tom and a couple others brought that Massey idea back and push that sort of forward. And that's been a big piece of that. And having leadership at the time that would let a handful of lieutenants sort of have some impact and just that general pressure. And, like everything, it starts at the station, at company officer level. I'll talk more about that as we get into the canned questions, since I cheated and prepared, but I don't have notes, I promise. But, and it's just that mindset. And again, having those specialty units, those guys have to be good.
Yeah.
And I think the other piece of that is we've kind of, that culture got set early by our first fire chief. They sort of spearheaded that residential fire sprinklers back in the 70s and early 80s. And so that whole, setting the tone for more than just our department is part of our culture. Yeah. And so once you start teaching and interacting with folks outside of your circle, you kind of have to step your game up. And, you
realize you got a lot better firemen out there.
Yep. And so you've got to be able to have that training culture. And again, it's from the top down. And just the way I try to say it is, we're always trying to raise the bar. There's always something I'm going to do a little different next time to try to do it a little bit better. I don't have to make great strides, but at the same time, do what you can to do a little better next time. And next thing you know, you'll, that big ship starts turning. And, we've made some great strides with our recruit schools and the way we teach things. It's not just a canned ISTA training. And that's a big piece of what's, pushed that training culture, I think.
Awesome. Well, going into kind of your specific job, Brennan came up with this fantastic question. I don't know if he's deciding he wants to run into a Suburban soon, maybe a little change of pace there, but his question, his question is, when you get on scene to take command, there's been a lot of talk about it recently. Do you prefer taking command from your car, or do you kind of do the mobile command notes or walking around?
Well, there's great arguments on both sides of that. I'll say it depends. You guys in the class you took, and that stuff that Rick George and those men teach and women, that you take your nose out of the game. I've been using my nose and that brain connection for 25 years. And now all of a sudden I'm sitting in the car and I've got the windows up and not paying attention to it. But there's also that, my job is to be there to catch that radio traffic that nobody else hears because they're busy doing work and to think about the big picture. So I kind of see both sides. Sometimes it depends. I'm quick to get out once the dust starts to settle. Initial assignments are knocked out and things are sort of calmed down a little bit. I'm out, walk around, we're face to face, and from there on. But I think during that initial period, because of, and again, I'll caveat that with, in my organization, where we have plenty of resources, my direct involvement is not going to make an impact typically. I think that's a piece of, I gotta, kind of, that whole know your job. My job is to eliminate the hurdles and to be thinking 3 and 4 steps ahead. And sometimes it's easier to do that with a clear head and a clean environment. I'm a big fan of just shut up and let them work. A lot of people like to talk on the radio, and I've got a couple of theories on that. But, at the end of the day, we all know what to do. If I show up in the Chiefs car and I don't say anything, man, the fire's probably going to go out anyway. So, you got to keep that in mind before you key that microphone up. Is what I'm about to say going to help and make an impact or not? And if it's not, then just let them work and just be patient sometimes. But,
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, good insight.
Yeah.
Last kind of specialized one we have. I know you're excited to get to share some of this, and now the announcement came a couple of weeks ago. So, what can we expect from this new season of Brass Tacks Hard Facts that's coming in this fall?
Well, I was there for a part of Brian Brush's filming, and then it was kind of an in and out. So I know I've always enjoyed Kyle Romagus and his stuff. I'm looking forward to being able to share that with the men and women in our battalion. But for my piece, which was super exciting, that's been the most nerve-wracking thing from the day Stretch asked. I was like, oh gosh. And it's been terrible. It's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. Because as you guys know, we can bullshit with the best of them in this job. And Brian, the producer, kind of head running the filming, he says, 2 is 1. So you got to be able to do the same thing twice in a row. And if you say it really a nice fluid way that works, and then they say, all right, do that again. And then you say it completely different. So it was very challenging to do, but it was a super opportunity. My stuff will be amazing and boring. It'll be some of the best CBTs, right up there with, doing your online training stuff. Yeah. But it's information that, it's not a lot of it out there. And so we're just trying to boil it down to what matters with those systems and all that stuff. At 2:00 in the morning, building's on fire. Now what? Try not. It's not a bunch of code heavy stuff, because that doesn't do us, any good when we're doing our job. But it's important, but it's not necessarily, what we need at 2 a.m. But
Absolutely.
yeah, so it should be some really good stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing the magic of editing and post-production. There were times.
Did
I
you get
just
hair and makeup?
stopped.
Is that what they?
No, I did not get makeup.
Damn it.
I should have had them do a little some
little
highlights or
blush.
something there, you know.
There you go.
But no, it was after the first take, I was questioning my life decisions, wondering what I had committed myself to. But after a little bit, you kind of get in the groove, and it worked out just fine. So
Awesome.
yeah, should be fun. So
Sweet. Look forward to it. Definitely have to tune in and make sure we get a chance.
absolutely.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, you did it. You nailed all the personal questions. So now you get the questions that you cheated on. You
The
know
boring
them.
questions. The boring question. All right, first one. You probably already know it. Why are we here? You can take this wherever you want.
Yeah, so this is a good one. I've always enjoyed hearing people pontificate on this one. But the thing that every time I hear it, it kind of comes to mind is that service, you know, raising the bar. And that changes throughout your career and how you do that. Again, I've been in this game for almost 32 years now, which seems crazy. But, you know, so sometimes it's serving the guy next to you, you know, whoever's riding up on the rig, or, you know, sometimes it's serving your peer. Sometimes it's serving somebody that reports to you later on as you move up. And it's also the community. You know, if we're always trying to make the people around us a little bit better, make ourselves a little bit better, and that leads to that whole we're here for them. I really like the way Kyle puts it. You know, it's all about the rescue. Some guys are searching, some guys are stretching lines. Hey, some guys are sitting in the Suburban, right, in the air conditioning where it's not raining. But everything goes to support the rescue of the unprotected civilian in the IDLH environment. And you know, I think that's ultimately why we're here. But it's about serving those men and women around you, and your family, and all of that stuff kind of plays into it. I think that kind of, you know, it's philosophical enough about it, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that answer. Cool. This next one. What training / conferences have been your favorite to attend?
Oh, MAFC. I mean, hands down.
I knew that was coming.
I knew it.
Shameless plug. No, I will say that, you know, I remember actually this thought came to me yesterday, in your all's shoes, you know, being a young guy in the fire department, reading these things we used to have called magazines. That was the only way to get content, right? You had your fire engineering subscription, your firehouse, your fire rescue one, you know, 2 or 3 of them. And, you know, always flipping to the back and reading Tom Brennan and reading these articles from the greats of the fire service, you know, in the day. And then the flyer would come out for FDIC. And that was always the big show. And there was a few small local ones, and then you'd look through there and there's all these classes taught by all these people that you've been reading for years. And man, I got to get there. So, I mean, FDIC, I think, should be on everybody's list, because it's just such a great opportunity to meet and network folks, and you know, learn from some of the names that we all know and see. But at the end of the day, I think the best one's the one that you're going to.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's just grabbing a Fool's Chapter class at the department next door, or a Fire Nuggets class, you know, further down the road at the, you know, in a different state, you know, whatever conference you can get to, whether it's a long one or a short one, go. There's absolutely there's no substitute for that. Getting outside of your circle and interacting with folks from other parts of the country and other departments, and there's no substitute for it. And you ask the questions, and man, if a lecture starts out and it's not your thing, just let your mind run. Think about it, man. How could we apply this in our department? Or man, how could I use that at the kitchen table next week? There's always something you can pull out of it, whether it's 100% applicable or not. But you know how it is. Once you start going, I'll never forget when my kids were little. My wife finally was like, "Hey, what are we doing here?" And so I negotiated 2 a year, and then MAFC worked because it was local, so it didn't count.
Yeah, there you go.
You know?
That's what you gotta.
Yeah, I booked another one, and she's like, "What happened to 2 a year?" I was like, "Well, MAPC doesn't count. And, FDIC is a given, so I mean, But over time, that loosens up when the kids get older. But
Yeah.
so yeah, that's what I would say. You just got to start going. Find a buddy.
Yeah.
It was a buddy of mine and I went down to Orlando Fire Conference many years ago, and it just, I was going, and hey, you want to go? What are you doing next weekend? He was like, I'll go. So it was, good times. So you just got to go and it, I will say this. The other thing is never be afraid to walk up and meet somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Even at the big conference, it doesn't matter. You just got to put it out there. You can find out real quick who's a fireman and who's a douchebag.
Yeah.
Very
true. That's very
true. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, 100%.
Excuse me. But some of those greats I mentioned reading as a young fireman, I've had the luxury, the privilege of meeting, interacting with, teaching with, learning from some big names that I'm not going to sit here and name drop, but just lots of fun, just humbling experiences. And at the end of the day, we're all just trying to get a little bit better at this.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you never know. Sometimes they turn out to be a battalion chief too. I think we talked about this story before, but that was awesome. That was when we knew it was just both him, Brennan, and I staring at a crowd. We're like, wasn't that? Didn't he show up yesterday in like a white hat? Wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, we're firemen, awesome. Man. It's all good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, it's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. How should we look at failures?
How should we look? This is the new one this season. Switched it up on me. So I think we learn more from failure than we do little successes. Mm-hmm. You think about it, they always say like, hey, you throw on a ladder. Don't practice it until you get it right. You got to practice it until you can't get it wrong. I really liked, forget, it may have been Brennan saying the other couple of weeks ago, talking about the muscle memory, allowing you to multitask.
Yeah.
Man, that was I thought, that's what a great way to say that. Because if you're not having to think about it, then you're really not multitasking, which they say we can't do. Mm-hmm. And so that piece of that is, the example, the analogy I'll give is when I first started at the engineering place, Telgen, this engineering firm, they do a lot of testing with fire sprinklers. And they did a lot of testing back in the day with Home Depot and the retail and storage stuff. And when somebody pays a lot of money, they pay $1 million to do a test at UL, and they do 6 different tests. They find one that works, and then that's what makes it in the book. Mm-hmm. Well, what caused one to fail? Mm-hmm. They won't tell you, because I don't want you to know why my stuff doesn't work. I only want you to know what does. And so, I think the fire service could learn a lot more from what didn't work than what does. And so I think if we take that to our stuff, in operations, is use those little failures and those as, like I think some others have said, as opportunities, right? That's the buzzword. But man, figure out how to do it and what makes it better. How can I be more efficient, and how can I do this same task with less energy? What's the lazy way, right? Finding a lazy way to stretch a line doesn't mean you're lazy. It means you're trying to conserve your energy for once you cross that threshold. Mm-hmm. We call that Steve-O. I don't know if he's going to watch this, but he was in one of those pictures. But anyway.
No, I think failures stick more than little successes, you said. So you ponder on the failures, and then when you ponder on something, you figure out how to do it the right way the next time. That's kind of how I've.
Well, and Chief Dave McGrail says, good luck on the fire ground reinforces bad habits. So if I don't fail, I'm assuming it's because I've got it figured out, when at the end, I might not have realized that was just good luck.
Yeah.
So failing allows us to know where that line is and, how to grow from it.
I think a really good part about failure, especially if you get a culture like that, it's okay with that. And the learning, like we've talked about, you die on the training ground or you fail on the training ground. That's where you really want to push yourselves and find is you've got to have that culture of learning too, where it's not one of hey, you fail, and then, oh, you fucked up, and we're going to make sure that everybody knows you fucked up. And like, then I feel like I've seen it happen. I've, felt it happen in past, like where you're sitting there, you're not actually thinking about the failures. Like, oh my God, that's so stupid. Like, why are they making such a big deal about it? Why is this and that happen? Where you're not actually thinking about what happened, why did it happen? And, oh, hey, I'm going to learn from that. I'm going to progress. Like,
right.
I think that's a huge part that we've seen in just like your culture of having that training environment.
Sure. Well, and then the other piece of that, I think, is also like you kind of got to there is if we don't train ever at game speed, how do we expect to perform at game speed?
Yeah.
Because there's things you identify when you try to hurry up. And of course, smooth is fast, but, we need to move with purpose and, make that happen. So
absolutely. I like that.
Sure. All right. Last kind of generic question we got is, what do you tell your probies to expect when they get hired on day one?
Ooh, I don't tell them anything.
Well, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I know, right? I think my thing is, we all hear, stay a student of the fire service.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to know it all. As soon as you think you do, you're in trouble. I had the honor and privilege of knowing and working with late great Bill Guston. As the epitome of that. He's one of those that I read for a very long time, and then was blessed by having him sit in one of my classes. No pressure, right? You're gonna find out if you're full of shit or not, because Bill's on row 2 in the aisle. But it was the beginning of a great friendship and mentorship in working with Captain Guston. But all that to say, it's that, man, we tell guys, if you'll devote just a couple hours every shift to making yourself better at this job, you'll be an all-star. I mean, it's real easy to come in, check the rig, go through the motions, clean the plank, you clean the shitters, you have some breakfast, you sit around the table like you need to for, an hour and a half after you finish eating, right? We go do the pre-plan, we pick grandma up off the floor, we do all the things, and next thing you know, it's the end of the day, and we watch TV and we eat dinner and bullshit for another 2 hours at the table, which is critical. I don't want to take away from that.
It's needed. It's
right,
needed.
right. But it gets very easy to go through the motions, and then you turn around. It's been a year and you haven't really done shit. I mean, if you take just a couple hours, man, pull everything out of a compartment. Just because how it works doesn't mean you're good at using it. Don't just be like, oh, that's the widget. No, pull it out, run it through its paces, try it. Yeah. What can it do? What can it not do? And again, it doesn't have to be the whole shift. But if you'll do that and really commit to spending a little bit of time trying to get better at this, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And then the other piece of that is, as you get into your career, don't just take the first answer and stop asking. Whatever your passion or you're at all interested in, just keep digging. If you like ground ladders, just keep going. Just read everything you can on it. Keep asking questions. Don't take the first answer. Ask why. That used to be very taboo when I was a young fireman, asking why. Oh boy, one of those kids, right? But that's how you learn and you get better. And that's how we all learn things like we know now. Ground ladders is a good example I like to use, the whole fly in, fly out debate. Finally got a number from the ladder manufacturers, but that's because we didn't just take the first answer. Those guys kept digging and kept trying and kept asking questions. And, that's what makes all of us better. Because then once you have a bunch of information, you start talking about it and people start coming to you and you start sharing it. And next thing you know, you're a subject matter expert on some podcast.
Absolutely. I think it's in the fire service. It's kind of hated. It seems to be the saying, and I don't care for it either. Another tool in the toolbox, but like as you start learning things, it's like, well, if you take that at face value and someone says something, you just throw it in. It's like, yeah, it's not going to do you any good. But like my big thing is always, this is a way, not the way. Like, just like you say, don't take the first one. Like nobody should come to you and say, this is the way we do things. Like it is a way, because something might work a little bit better for someone else. And like, that's where you see it come in, where it's like another tool in the toolbox is like, if I do have 3 ways that something works for me, one works better than the other, but each other one is like situational, you're going to need it at some point in your career because nothing's ever cookie cutter. It's everything's different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and the other piece of that is, that's how we figure out the little tricks. Hey, lead with your left foot, not your right foot. Why? Well, because we did it 1,000 times and we tried it 15 different ways and everybody's idea got tried out. Now the other challenge with that, and I can, that you guys haven't experienced yet is when you and your engine company dial in how you like to stretch a line and you've tried it 100 different ways and you've got your way and it works really well. And then the new guy shows up and you show it to him and you're like, is this how we stretch our line? He's like, okay. Well, then at some point, a new guy's going to come along and say, hey, let's try it this other way. And you gotta be humble enough to, even though you might know the outcome, be like, all right, let's try it. Because that guy's going to learn something. And you never know what you might discover. Yeah. I had a great, one of my first lieutenants at Cobb County, Van Cunningham, was the coolest cat in the town. You'd come up to him and be like, hey, LT, we want to try, this. And he'd be like, all right, let's give it a try. And he'd light up that cigarette and we'd try it and it would fail miserably. And he'd be like, all right, well, and he'd talk through it and then you'd realize, well, he knew that was going to happen. Yeah. But he let us try it anyway. It kind of gets back to the previous question, right?
Yeah, learning from your failures.
We learn through that failure, and then you never know what little thing you might stumble on through that failure that might be the start of the next great idea. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yep. For sure.
Well, awesome. That's the end of our generic questions and all kind of the ones we have laid out for you. So now comes the hard part where we've got the good question from our previous guest and then the one that you got to come up with there next. So we touched on it a little bit with our announcements kind of in the beginning. We unfortunately just had some guests that fell through. So just things happen. It's part of the way. So we liked the question that Ryan had come up with, though, and we think that you've got a great answer for it. So we are keeping that question, giving it to you, and then you'll be moving on for our next guest, who will be Steve, who will be our second civilian guest. We have because we had you know Andy. We know Andy, longtime listener, first time caller. But Steve is a big financial guy. He does have just a lot of kind of clients that are in the fire service. So he's been really helpful for that for a lot of people we know and guys there. So we're gonna have him come on and talk some of the nerdy finance stuff that everyone doesn't want to but probably needs to hear, is our hope. So, but we'll get our first question for you out of the way first, which is, what is the best way to resolve conflict?
The best way to resolve conflict. Well, it's I'm going to lay out a layered approach to this, maybe. Big broad brushes. You got to catch stuff early. Especially, and I'm going to come at it from a company officer standpoint, because that's where I felt the most effective was an engine lieutenant, because man, you're only responsible for who you break bread with, and it's the meat and potatoes, and that kind of lends itself to the answer to this is having a relationship with the men and women you work with, and knowing them enough to be able to tell when they're off or when something's really bothering them, or if that's really not what the problem is. But getting stuff early when it's not a big problem. And I learned that the hard way. I got lucky sometimes and thought I knew what I was doing. And a couple of times in my career, learned it the very hard way, that affected some of our good friends and their careers, because assumptions were made and you can't just take the surface. Yeah, it's fine. I got it. Okay. Well, if you know it's not fine, you got to keep digging, and catch those things early, communicate with people, have those honest conversations, is a big piece of that. And appealing to people's, I don't want to say emotions, that's not the right thing. But if we know our folks that we work with every day, it becomes much easier to sit somebody down and say, hey, Joe, something's not right. What's going on? What's really happening? Mm-hmm. And then having the grace to allow them to make those mistakes and, move forward with it, being clear with, there's all those expectations and all that stuff you learn in fire officer, but which is important to have that formal, but knowing how to use the formal stuff to help you folks out and the earlier you catch it, the less trouble everybody gets in.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Keep things as small as possible, and they're a lot easier to deal with. It's probably what I would say there. Cool. That's about it.
Yeah, I like that.
I guess. Hope it's not a bad answer.
No, that's great.
Oh, it's good.
They put that in the officer book.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Right. It should be a whole chapter in itself. Set of budgets.
Yeah.
I know budgets are important, but
speaking of budgets, Steve is coming on next time.
Yeah, there we go. Nice transition. You're hired.
There we go.
You're hired. That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what question do you got for Steve?
So my question for Steve, I think, would be, what is the biggest mistake that you see guys in the fire service making with respect to their finances, both long-term saving stuff and short-term?
Yeah.
That's one of the things we always tell the new guy: don't go out and buy a new truck.
Yeah.
You're off probation.
They always do.
And, stop. Don't look at me. I'm old and I make more money than you do.
Yeah.
Stop. I'm married and my wife works. So, but I think because we're in the process of working through that as our pension and retirement system is changing. I know what we tell the young guys. I know what I tell my kids, having seen the power. And unfortunately, you got to do it now.
Yeah.
And that sucks when you're trying to pay bills and you're young, especially if you've already got a family, and you're trying to make ends meet. I've been there, and I put some stuff off, and, I've got a little more of a safety net than some of the newer guys do. But, so yeah, what's that, what's the biggest mistake? And, and kind of part two is, what's the easiest way to fix that kind of thing, So that's what I would ask Steve, the finance guy.
You should coin that, Steve, the finance guy.
There you go.
Like that. Well, awesome. That's all the questions that we have for you. So the last part, I'm sure is just what we call our kitchen table. So if there is anything more that you want to touch on, any people, conferences, anything you want to shout out and talk about, that's all we got left.
Well, obviously, season 4, Brass Tacks, Hard Facts are coming out. Watch for that. Our friends over at Elkhart gave some of us an awesome opportunity to share some of those nuggets of knowledge. I was trying to think. I missed the question that you guys asked in the past. Where did you get your passion for training? Mm-hmm. That's one that every time I've heard it, I knew after we talked that I said, well, I know what I'm saying there.
Well, there you go.
I'll tell this story because I'll tell on myself a little bit, because it kind of gets back to that whole, paying attention, raising the bar. Absolutely. And not getting complacent. Through my career, when I made lieutenant, went to a station with some all-stars, a couple of those pictures. It was funny. I realized that apparently I only take pictures when we're doing extrication training, because 2 of those and others I had were only from that. But a couple of those, one of the extrication pictures and the one with the group, some men that I worked with at Station 19 as a lieutenant. And early on, I came in as I guess at that point, that was 2007. So, I've been in the fire service for 15 years, we'll say, something like that. I'm not going to do the math, but thought I had everything figured out. And we run on a fire alarm, and we pull up, and the HVAC van is in the parking lot. And I get out of the rig, and I grab my, put my helmet on. I got my coat on like a cape, I grabbed the tick just because I knew I needed something in my hands. Actually, no, I take that back. I grabbed my helmet because I knew I needed something in my hands. And I turn around, I walk up the sidewalk, and I'm met by the HVAC tech. He's like, "Yeah, it's me. I was just working on the pipes and cleaning the ducts or something bullshit. Nothing's going on." All right, cool. And I turn around, and I'm met on the sidewalk by 2 firemen that I had been to recruit school with, that were in the company, and they were ready to fight fire. Buttoned up, air packs. So like my air pack's still in the rig, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, your cape can't fly if you got your BA on your back. Yeah. These 2 dudes buttoned up. One's got the hook in the can and the tick out of my seat. The other guy's got the irons. Both of them ready to go to do work. and I felt about that tall.
Hmm.
And, I had always been going to classes and taking opportunities when they came up and training stuff. But it was at that moment that I realized that I'm responsible now. And this is on me. And I will never let them overwork me again and show me up like that, because that was unacceptable. I was failing them at that moment and not being ready to deal with whatever was coming. And so that was sort of a moment for me that moving forward was like, all right, we got to get this figured out, and started that whole push to learn more about the stuff, whatever it was. Right.
Yeah.
And again, raising the bar every day. And just as the other thing is, don't wait till everybody's at work to do the training class. Because if you do, you'll never train.
Yep.
So you just got to get in there and dig and do something a little bit every day. And next thing you know, you turn around and you'll call everybody that walks in the door a kid because you're old enough to be their dad. And they're the same age as your kids, which I think you guys are. But, and there's nothing wrong with that. You got to remember that energy. That's one of the things I tell our new guys when they come in is help us remember how excited you are to come to work every day.
Absolutely.
Because we've lost some of that. Yeah, absolutely not. We've lost some of that because we've been doing it too long. Yeah. So bring us your excitement, because we need that too. So
I will never understand the people that choose to not like coming to work, especially when you're at work as long as we are. Like the people that seem like they don't want to be there, that are like, it's so much better. Life is so much better when you enjoy going to work. Like, why would you never not want to enjoy going to work? Like,
sure. Well, we all have our days,
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it's
that's one of the challenges. That's one of my job roles now is, with juggling 6 stations and almost, should be 40 men, but, and women, but is that whole, I want you to want to be at work today. So how can I help? What can I do to facilitate that? And then get out of the way so you guys can do your stuff and, hopefully not roll your eyes when the car pulls up,
Yeah.
You always can hear the, caca, the Chiefs here call across the PA, but, it's all good.
3 clicks on
That's awesome.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's all good.
Awesome.
So that's why I try not to interact when I'm out as just a regular Joe, but sometimes people call my boy.
You did good. Right, we were really doubting it for a while. I swear.
Yeah. I swear to God, I've seen you in my lifetime before. I don't know when.
It was a secret. It's hard. It's real easy to blend in when you're 6'3", red hair,
Yeah. No. But, well, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say, I guess that's about it. So
yeah. Thank you much for taking the time out of your busy day, busy morning to share some awesome stuff. Again, it was a blast to meet you. We really hope we can get back down to MAFC again. That was such a great time.
You guys wouldn't recognize the training ground.
Really?
So, oh yeah.
That's right.
2.5-story burn building with a daylight basement.
Yeah.
There's 6-story high rise. Each floor is different. With storefronts and rooftop stuff.
I forgot there was construction going on when we were there. That was my God. Now I really got to come see it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's fantastic.
That's awesome.
So
well, sweet.
Right down there.
Yeah. Thank you again for coming on. Thank you for taking the time, and
thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you everybody for listening, and as always, don't be a shitbag.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for coming on. Don't be a shitbag.